Alright guys, we are in the final game of Rain versus Soulkey, third, fourth place match from the KSL. Our final map, game 7, is going to be on Gladiator. This is very much a Zerg favored map, so this is going to be an uphill battle for Protoss. Rain is looking really good, but when he allows Soulkey to macro up, he definitely starts to fall behind. Could definitely be very devastating for him if he's not careful here. So this is going to be... oh my gosh, that's going to be crazy. There is so much going on right now. And Rain has just been playing absolutely excellently. Soulkey been playing very well as well. Makes such a big difference, the players playing at home versus on the big stage. Not to say that I don't enjoy watching players play on the big stage at the KSL, but having this unofficial third place match, having both players play from home, really does make a difference in the quality of play. They're both comfortable with where they're going. They're all very well warmed up. There's not a whole bunch of nerves involved. So you really do see a much higher level of play overall and the way that they're able to perform. So we're going to be on Gladiator. This is one of those really actually annoying maps to wall off on just because of the way that the naturals are shaped. So it's going to be kind of an awkward wall off. But we see, actually, I think that was a gateway first. So going to be a little bit more aggressive this time around for Rain. We're going to try to put some pressure onto Soulkey. We saw him do that last game on Circuit Breaker. It worked a little bit early on, but Soulkey managed to hold off for long enough to get his fourth base up and running, and then it was all history. At that point, Rain had sacrificed a little bit too much to put the pressure on. This game, however, might be a little bit different. I said this is a bit of a Zerg favored map, so if you can get a little bit of pressure early on as the Protoss player with this early gate, trying to get a couple of drones early on, it can kind of snowball out of control. Gonna be able to scout out this natural. Can't tell if this was an overpull or if it was a hatch first. We'll see as soon as we get into the main. Okay, it was an overpull hatch. Not too surprising. But with the first zealot coming out across the map, oh, one set of lings for Soulkey. Is he gonna make more? If he only makes one set of lings, this zealot attack could actually be very obnoxious right now. He might actually just keep a couple lings back at home instead of going straight for the counterattack. It is a little bit of a risky situation, but it looks like the third base is probably down for Soulkey already. He's getting his gas. Gonna be trying to play it a little bit safe, and it's actually Rain who needs to back up and hold this ramp with the zealot, knowing his opponent knows what's going on. That early drone scout really made such a huge difference. And at this point, Soulkey's got to be feeling pretty comfortable. He knows what's going on. He can apply pressure with a couple of these early lings. There's not a whole lot that can be done. Next zealot popping out is going to allow him to start actually working on these Zerglings, and that's pretty much held. He's got the wall off now. A little bit of an awkward wall off, but as long as he has these units in position, he's good. And I love this constant cycling out of the drones, making sure that he's got the wall off. Gotta be a little bit careful. He doesn't want to get this zealot stuck out here by himself. Oh my gosh. He got a ling in. He got 2 lings in. 3? 3 lings into the main? Wow, that's bad news. That is going to be... earlier we saw 1 or 2 lings get in, and that wasn't too bad, but 3 lings is a whole different story. 3 lings, I believe 2 shots probes, so that's a pretty big deal. It makes it very easy to quickly kill off probes. Let me see, it's 5 times 3, 30. Oh, I guess it still takes 3. 4 lings, 2 shots probes. But with this one zealot in his main, he'll be alright. He just has to constantly micro it. It's so annoying to do. And again, with these big zealot pressure, just trying to get very aggressive here and do a lot of damage to his opponent, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough. Oh, a little bit of lapse of concentration from Soulkey, though, does allow him to get some free damage in on those lings in his main. That might have actually been a saving grace for Rain right now. But you can see his macro is faltering a little bit. It's not bad, but you can tell by the delay of getting his probes to the mineral patches that he's definitely not as focused as he normally is with this build. This is very difficult to micro at many different fronts at once, and he's still got those 2 probes just sitting at his natural. And that, honestly, is probably the biggest issue with going for this attack, is he's got these 2 probes sitting off the line, not doing anything, on top of losing a couple probes. Snipe with the speedlings. Oh my gosh, 2 speedlings in the main. If Soulkey controls this well, basically these will never die until Dragoon comes out. They will just never die. This is so obnoxious to deal with right now, but Rain is dealing with it to the best of his ability, cycling out probes wherever needed, and moving this Zealot around constantly, doing a couple probe drills wherever necessary. First of the Corsairs is going to be starting to come out, and this looks like a fairly normal build. It's just a little bit behind. Does actually intend to go for the opt for the early Dragoon just to go ahead and start putting on some pressure onto these Lings. This isn't a guarantee that the Lings will die quickly. It may still take a while to actually kill off the Lings, but it at least buys him. It makes it a lot easier. It means he doesn't have to continually micro around this one Zealot over and over and over forever. 2 Zealots again coming into the natural, getting in a little damage. They're going to kill off one of the drones and force the pull. This is actually kind of really bad for Soulkey. This 3rd base is kind of an island on itself, so having these units on the ramp... Oh, nice! Doing the drone drill to disrupt those Zealots was actually very nice. And as long as he just continues to move these drones around, keep the weak ones from dying... Oh, wow, he gets another one of those drones, but that's the last one. So, all in all, I would say this game is about even, with Soulkey a little bit in the lead. Soulkey managed to avoid taking much damage at his natural and his 3rd base, and now being able to pump Hydras off of just those 4 bases is a pretty... Or sorry, those 3 bases with the 5 hatches is a pretty big deal. It basically means at this point, Soulkey is safe to macro to his heart's content. He can do whatever, and because Rain has been focusing so hard on doing all these little attacks, he hasn't had a whole lot of time to actually spend into his economy. He spent so much into units just to defend against those Lings, just to kind of replenish his Zealot count, that he doesn't really have the economy to get out those Dark Templar super quickly. Those Dark Templar are maybe a minute or 2 late. They're quite late, all things considered. So at this point, Soulkey is feeling pretty confident, I would suppose. Doesn't really have any problems. Just continuing to macro, continue to do his thing. And this might be an issue for Rain coming up. But Rain has always been the type of player that doesn't mind falling behind early on. He's probably just going to be turtling off these bases, building more and more of these gateways, just trying to get a whole bunch of storms. Once he gets the storms, he can move out and try to take that 3rd base up near the 12 o'clock position, just to the right of his natural. And that's pretty easy to defend as long as you have like a decent Zealot wall off and 1 or 2 storms and a couple cannons up there. It's pretty much unbreakable until your opponent really gets a whole bunch of stuff going, and then you can kind of start creeping around the map the best you can. But at this point, it's an uphill battle for Rain. Rain had to cut a couple of Corsairs, you see, just realizing that he was pretty far behind in his tech, pretty far behind in the economy. Just decided to cut a couple of Corsairs. Normally you want to go up to 4 or 5, even if you're not going super heavy on the Corsairs, just because it allows you to have that air control, allows you to continually snipe Overlords wherever you want. You can go ahead and kill off Overlords that are defending bases. You can screen for drops, things like that. So there's all kinds of good things that you can do with those extra Corsairs, but at this point they're just going to be used for scouting, and Rain is in trouble. Here comes the first pack of Hydra, is going to start working on this wall. Can't really do much about this right now. If he tries to push out, there's a whole bunch of Hydras behind this that can kind of walk up and start doing some damage. The split is good against the first storm. A couple more storms. Gotta be careful about that. Does manage to avoid most of the damage on that storm. So Soulkey's still in a pretty good shape, and you saw he pulled all of his units to the right. May decide to regroup around the side, but may just bring in another group of units to the left side. Actually just gonna regroup. Gotta be careful for this big storm. I love how good the splits are for Soulkey. I think there's still 1 or 2 more storms left, maybe? So he's gotta be a little bit careful. But wow, trying to take a third base off the back of this is pretty ballsy. He is really confident about how well this attack is going to be going, but it's not going well for him. The space is just too wide open for Protoss to actually move out right now, and a 4th base is going down for Soulkey right now. It may have been moving out a little bit too early. As a Protoss, sometimes you just have to sit back and wait for the critical number of units. At this point, moving out was a bit of a mistake. He lost way too much in that engagement. Got surrounded by Hydras in a huge arc. And this is looking pretty hopeless for Rain, I'm not gonna lie. He's now floating up to 900 minerals. He can't spend it anywhere. There's not enough room in his base for too many more gateways, so he's just trying to do whatever he can. Gonna try to storm. The storm ends up hitting mostly just his own units, so not a whole lot there. Soulkey is sitting back and macroing, though. You can tell that Soulkey actually doesn't have a ton of saturation at his bases. It's mostly just going into army, but he's got so much army right now, and there aren't enough storms to deal with this. They cancel the 3rd base yet again. The only bastion of hope for Rain right now is just sitting on this ridge and just trying to take continually cost-efficient trades versus the Hydras, but behind this, the economy is growing for Soulkey. The upgrades are still going, and it is going to continually get more difficult for Rain from here on out. He has broken the 100 supply, though. That's usually the turning point for Protoss. Once they break 100 supply, they can kind of jump up to 170 or 150, 170 pretty quickly, and then start actually doing a lot of damage. But losing that Archon is a pretty huge deal. You really can't afford to be losing Archons at this point in the game. Archons are one of those things you have to keep around for a long time because it's so important for that late game composition that you need versus the Cracklings. So far, though, at least the trades have been really, really good, and he's starting to actually take control of both of these high ground ridges. He just needs to make sure not to give it up. As long as he's got the high ground ridges, it's kind of impossible for the Hydras to really push up here and get a ton of damage in. But you can see huge flanks from either side. Soulkey is looking for blood, trying to find any sort of weakness in his opponent and force Rain to keep moving back and forth along this ridge. But Rain's actually just going to take the aggression. He's actually going to go move forward. This does open him up to a counterattack, so he's going to have to continually walk back and forth. But so far, he's doing a pretty good job of juggling all this, and now the lurkers are morphing for Soulkey. Soulkey's going to have a gigantic army pretty soon. Rain did manage to actually get this 3rd base up, so maybe there's still hope for him. Tries to get a 4th base, but it's been discovered pretty much immediately by this Overlord. He's got to send a couple units over there to start building a cannon farm pretty early on, but he's already stretched so thin. There aren't really a whole lot of storms left. He's got maybe 3 or 4 storms. A couple more of these high tempo are coming out right now, but maybe he's held for right now. Did he actually get up to 4 bases versus Soulkey? If he can actually get up to these 4 bases and start macroing pretty hard, he's going to be in pretty good shape. But I think Soulkey's looking for the crackling timing. Huge Zerg army moving out across the map. As long as he can control these ridges, though, that is what is going to matter right now. Manages to save this High Templar, so that's a pretty big deal. Gonna be able to start killing off all of these units, massing up all those storms, and I think Rain may have actually, he may have survived into the mid game. This is really what it takes. You have to have insane grit as a macro player to actually make it into the mid game versus Zerg on the supply. And like I said, he's up to that 150 now. Blasting up to the 150, 160, 170 supply is going to allow him to start actually pushing down the Zerg and doing some serious real damage. He still needs a couple of Reavers to finish out his tech tree, but other than that, at this point, I think Rain is going to be feeling pretty comfortable with where he's at. It's difficult to start killing off these other bases, but once you get the Reavers in there, once you get the drop play going on, it becomes a lot easier. It doesn't feel like a monumental, impossible task anymore. It just becomes a matter of macroing all over the map, keeping your attention from getting split too much. He's got to be careful with moving out too much, though. Because of the circular nature of this map, every time you move out, you open yourself up to a counterattack, which is why you see he has a really nice spread of observers around, just to try to make sure he knows where the Zerg army is going. Kind of allows him to continually move his army around in a smart, intelligent way. Lots of lings moving out, trying to look for openings in these bases, but not going to happen. Doesn't look like they have adrenal glands quite yet, so Soulkey is actually in trouble. This is a pretty scary army, and once they start pushing in here, could actually do some serious damage, but does manage to snipe the observer early on. That is going to stonewall this push, at least for right now. And at this point, Rain is just going to relocate his army, continue macroing, and start eating up the map up at the top side. Like I said, if you are dealing with a turtle Zerg that's just kind of sitting on all of these, you can sit back yourself. You don't have to you don't have to do a ton of damage. You don't have to attack in there. As long as you got your bases protected by cannon farms, by the High Templar, by the Reavers, you're in pretty good shape. You're going to be alright. So this is looking actually really nice, and now adding on the Archons. Like I said, Archons are very important late game unit. They kind of decide how you win fights versus the Lings later on, because Cracklings just become so powerful. And you see you put down a Robo at that base, you'll see him start to throw down Robos at all of his base, Robos in at least one gateway. So you can start building Dark Templar in particular, and the Reavers at those bases. Once you have the Dark Templar and the Reavers, it's pretty easy to actually protect all of your bases. Zerg can't really push into there. Even under the Dark Swarm, it just becomes a very difficult task. Good job holding onto that Archon, and I think Rain has actually turned a corner now. He's looking really, really good now. He's got that 4th gas up right now, and 4 gases as a Protoss player is, oh my gosh, it's insane how much you can do with 4 gases. You basically can just bank gas for the rest of the game. He's got double forge going. He's getting all of his upgrades everywhere. If this game goes late enough, we could actually see him go into Dark Archons, getting the Dark Archons, and then using the Maelstrom on these clumps of units can actually prove to be very, very strong. But, ooh, loses the Observer down there in the bottom left-hand corner. But, again, going to be attacking in here, trying to get the damage done. Got to be careful with this Observer, but it goes down yet again. Soulkey has been really on top of sniping the Observer in this game. It's actually been very, very nice. But the power of the Lings is finally here. Those Lings are so strong. You can see, it seems kind of funny because early on I feel like using a Storm to kill like off 4 or 5 Lings is a bit excessive. But in this late game, with how strong they are, like, it's fine. You just back up and Storm everything. It's the safe thing to do. And Rain is just eating up the map, just getting so many bases at this point. It's actually insane, but big attack coming straight through the middle. Is he going to be able to save all these High Templar? Gonna be able to actually do quite a big deal, but these flanking Lings could represent a problem to him. He's trying to move up and get to his natural, where it looks like all these units are going, but huge counterattack going over to that 5th base over in the 1 o'clock position. Oh my god, that is so many lurkers. This is so much right now, but he has, oh my gosh, he has the High Templar, he has the Reaver up in that corner, so he's in pretty good shape right now. Good Storms coming out right away, gonna be able to get on top of these, and there are the Reavers. This is pretty much held, but even though this is like, wow, whoa, this is like a 360 surround though, this is so much, but look at the supply for Rain, it's still huge. He's got the units that he needs in the right places. Not much of a standing army, but at this point it doesn't even matter. As long as you have the Storms, as long as you have the Reavers, you're in good shape. The Reaver does go down though, so now he's basically relying on the Storms, and maybe Soulkey actually broke this base. Wow. No more Storms left. It doesn't have any standing army, and this might actually be the breaking point. More and more units flooding in. This is the scary part of having 3 or 4 base Zerg. Sorry, 4 or 5 base Zerg, as you end up just having so many units you can keep crushing through The natural might be able to be held for right now, though. This is the beauty of the Protoss player on all these bases. You can kind of hold on forever as long as you have plenty of storms. So lots of storms going down, gonna be able to kill all those lurkers. There are a couple dark storms, but as long as you have the Zealot Archon and a couple more storms, you're gonna be in good shape. It's gonna go ahead and go for potentially a Reaver drop, which is a little bit interesting. You see the Archon count starting to grow. That's the most important part. Kills off the remaining lurkers, but more coming in right now. Needs to be careful with that Archon. He needs to make sure that stays alive, but it's gonna go down. And just continual pressure coming out from Soulkey right now. He's not gonna give up on this natural. Even though the supply is still pretty high, all that momentum that Rain had built up in the center of the map is just gone. Breaking that third base has just completely broken Rain, and Rain doesn't have the shuttles that he really needs to actually start moving stuff out across the map and doing a ton of damage. But the Archon count is finally starting to get here. He's got the Reavers as well. This is actually a pretty scary army. It looks really lean just having the Zealot Archon, but Zealot Archon plus Storms and a couple of Reavers is pretty much the ultimate late game army versus Zerg. Pretty strong overall. Mostly because Zealots are actually really cost efficient versus the Ultralists, so it's actually quite strong. Zealots and the Dragoons are actually very good versus Dragoon or Ultralists. So Ultralists are actually the worst unit that you can make in late game ZVP. And fifth base is down now for Rain. He's not going to get any better than this. This is pretty much the end as far as his bases go. Might want to just go ahead and morph those into Archons. He's trying to save up on as many storms as possible, knowing that his opponent is just going to continue sending in units. That huge 360 surround from Soulkey really is what made the difference, but looks like Rain has finally kind of reestablished his hold over this side of the map. The Archon count is starting to get pretty high. He's got plenty of High Templar in his army as well. So looks like he might be able to actually restabilize and start killing off all these units over here. Just needs to be careful not to take too much damage from all of the lurkers. So far, doing a very nice job of just sniping off all of these random lurkers. And he's got lots of storms still. So the Lings haven't been doing that much damage, and I think he might have actually broken this base. Rain swiping back at Soulkey after that devastating move earlier. This is the Golden Army trying to go ahead and kill this. Wow, he actually triple storm there just to make sure that everything died. Ooh, big storms coming down on all those Hydras. Gonna be able to kill them off. He's gonna get on top of the morphing lurkers. Gonna actually do a lot of damage, and this army is... it's running out of steam though. Even though there's been tons and tons of damage, it's slowly running out of steam, and he's not going to be able to push much further out on the map. This may just end up being a force that he uses to trade as well as he can. Just try to trade minerals for minerals, gas for gas. They're going to be able to finally kill off all of this force, and Soulkey just fighting back constantly. So much stuff going on this map right now, but it looks like Soulkey may have stabilized, and with so many units missing from Rain's army and not enough gateways to really replace it, I think that, and to some degree, Rain is in a bit of trouble right here. He's relying on just storms to deal with the lurkers at this point because he doesn't have the observers he needs. It's been kind of a recurring theme through this. He's had a really hard time securing the number of observers that he actually needs. These robos have been just so busy making non-stop reverse shuttle. Haven't been able to actually get the units that he needs out. He's got plenty of money though, so as long as he plays smart, he can continue to claw his way back into this game. But he needs to save that 5th base. That is really the crux of everything. Gonna be able to get on top of this morphing Archon. Slowly running out of storms. These Lings are just overrunning, and this is starting to look like campaign Zerg. Again, the full surround on Rain's army. Rain just can't do much. He doesn't have the Dragoon count that he wants for that big, scary, meaty late game army. And these units are just slowly tearing him apart. He does manage to save the 5th base though, which is very nice, but it won't take long for Soulkey to send a couple more units down there, start actually pressuring that yet again. Soulkey in the meantime has at least has access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bases on his side of the map. 7 more bases, so he definitely has the potential to just continue making tons and tons of units. Is he going to be able to snipe this? Oh no. That is devastating right now for Rain. Rain can't afford to lose that Nexus. He's going to lose a couple of probes over here as well. Probes cannot be going down at this point in the game. He's slowly running out of money, and you can see it in his gas counts. Before, when he had all 5 bases right there, he was slowly, steadily creeping up on the gas counts, but he just hasn't been able to do it. I think a large part of Rain's issue right now is he hasn't really done any counter pressure. He's just kind of been absorbing the pressure from his opponent and maybe just going for big counter pushes to try to see if he can just outright win the game. But he hasn't been doing anything to really take control of the map back. He hasn't really been trying to do anything to throw his opponent off as far as drops go, as far as run-bys go. And that's really becoming a problem for him. He's trying to beeline down to here, but honestly, I would love to see this attack with something like a drop at that base over in the 9 o'clock base, because every time he just tries to make a big frontal push, he's just trading more of his units for the Zerg units, and with Soulkey owning more of the map real estate right now, it's just not good for him. It's just not a good trade. Oh no. Losing all of the Reavers. Oh, he's just suiciding in units. Rain just falling apart right now. His army just completely collapses under the pressure. He's going to be able to get a couple units over here, but with all of these lurkers incoming, I don't know, maybe he can kill off a couple of these with good micro and some storms, but this is looking like he's just kind of falling apart. Macro slowed down for a little bit. Doesn't have any more to actually offer over at this base. That is going to be the end of his pressure over at the 3 o'clock base, and Soulkey looks like he's holding on strong. Got plenty of supply still as well. Even though the trades haven't been great for him, he's been owning most of the real estate on the map, so he's basically untouchable. That's going to be a sigh of relief, at least for Rain, seeing that base down in the bottom left-hand corner hasn't been taken yet. But, I mean, at this point, you need something to go your way, and just spamming Sporms on top of all of his own units. It's the only way to deal with the Lings right now. There isn't any other splash in the way of Archons. There's no Reavers with this army. He still doesn't have the Dragoon count that he wants for the late game. Now he's starting to actually put on the pressure and starting to get a couple of drone kills here and there, which is very nice. That's going to slowly start getting him back into this game, but he needs about probably 5 or 6 of those types of drops without losing his shuttle in order to actually get back into this game. And right now there's some Scourge chasing that shuttle, so he's going to have to play this pretty much perfectly if he wants to get those units out alive. Very good dodges on the Scourge, actually, so he does keep the shuttle alive for a little bit longer. May go in for another drop like that, but at this point his army is just entirely Zealots and a couple of High Templar. This is not where you want to be as a Protoss player. There's just no gas for him at all. And you cannot fight Lurkerling with just pure Zealot. It's never gonna work. It's never gonna be cost efficient. The Lings just start to tear up Zealots once they got those 3/3 and Adrenal Glands. But he's continuing to do whatever he can to just kind of control these spokes on the wheel of Gladiator. This is a very, very close game, I think. It could still go either way. Honestly, all it takes is one really good fight from Rain to turn the tides and kind of snowball the lead out of control. But Soulkey just has so much economy. As long as Soulkey just kind of generally plays safe and doesn't make too many mistakes. Oh, that was a nice pickup, dodging the plagues on those Reavers. So that was actually very, very nice. Sending in a couple of units here and there, but with Lings being able to clean up basically everything in the game now, yeah, even the run-bys are not really good. You have to have stuff like DTs and high Templar drops all over the place. You have to be just annoying everywhere. That's the only way you're going to get back into this game. It's going to do a couple drops over here. Storm's not great so far. Did not quite get the storms that he wanted. He's going to have to go ahead and drop those high Templar, I think, if he wants to save that. He does actually manage to get to his base in time, so he does save the high Templar inside that shuttle, but unfortunately the rest of his army gets cleaned up, and Rain is just hurting. At this point, honestly, I think it might be better to just go ahead and dive deep into some of these bases, force the Lings back as far as possible, because if you're forcing the Lings into these 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock positions, places like that, you're not really getting a whole lot done. You're just kind of forcing the Lings kind of out of position. But if you dive all the way deep into the main, into some of these bases that are deep in Soulkey's territory, then you're forcing the Lings, you're forcing a lot of units back a lot further than they really have to go, and kind of allows you to gain more middle of the map pressure for yourself. In any case, it looks like Rain is still trying to stabilize. He doesn't have the army that he wants, but he has managed to get up to 130 supply, 160 supply again. So this is one positive thing for him. The plagues have been absolutely devastating. Softens up these zealots so much, makes them so much weaker to the Lings. And he wants to go ahead and start getting the rest of his upgrades, but he just doesn't have the gas for it right now. The harassment's slowly starting to come back in and actually do some damage, which has been nice. Oh my gosh, beautiful play right now. So the DTs actually, these drops are slowly actually starting to pay for themselves. Being able to cut off a lot of those drones matters. That actually makes a pretty huge difference. But again, like I said, the problem is with this main army, just mass zealots isn't going to cut it. It's going to work for right now, just because he has a lot of strong units behind it. But mass zealots, you really need to start getting in those beefy dragoons. You really need to start getting in the critical mass of Archons. You've got to get in at least 2 shells with Reavers. It's just you have to do that going into the late game. But I mean, Rain has stabilized though. He's managed to take this 3 o'clock base for himself. He's put the pressure back on Soulkey, and suddenly I feel like Soulkey could actually lose this game. The zealots are all very weak though. It's very easy to kind of just flank this army and kill everything. But right now, at this point in time, it's looking pretty good for Rain. Actually, I'm quite surprised. I didn't actually expect him to make it this far, but more Lings coming in from the back, gonna be able to flank this, maybe kill off a couple of these Reavers, but the Reavers just absolutely tearing stuff up right now. Wow, and he actually broke this base. Is he gonna be able to get straight into the natural? Is Rain doing it? Oh my god! And here comes this drop yet again, doing so much damage to Soulkey's economy over on that side of the map. Gonna be able to drop and get a free storm off on these. Soulkey not paying attention, losing tons of drones over those 2 bases, and suddenly that's a good chunk of the economy for Soulkey that is just gone. There's the GG! Rain wins it! Rain wins 3rd place in the KSL over Soulkey with an insane 4-3 victory.